More fuel is being added to the fire of a potential Quest 3 Lite being launched, as this last week people noticed the Quest 2 256 gig, the bigger model, has completely gone missing online. The 256 model started showing up as out of stock on meta.com in all of its available countries, and now we're seeing it delisted from Amazon. This is possible that Meta is starting to continue to try and sell out their stock on Quest 2s, and the Quest 2 did get a price drop recently, also encouraging them to sell through more of the stock, as we saw it was selling through the holidays about 2-to-1 against the Quest 3. A lot of these rumors started last year when a roadmap was actually leaked out to The Verge from Meta, showing that they were planning on releasing another headset in 2024 that was supposed to have the most attractive price point to anybody in the VR consumer market. There's also been a lot of this analysis because the Quest 3 runs on the Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2, and if they produce a Lite version of this that also has color mixed reality, it would be easier for developers to develop for a Quest 3 Lite and a Quest 3 rather than also developing for the Quest 2's previous hardware in black and white cameras. If they drop a Quest 3 Lite this year that does have a lot of the capabilities the Quest 3 has, would you upgrade from your Quest 2? Would you get one if you don't have a VR headset, especially if it's around that $250 to $300 price range? Continuing the trend of what's happening with Quest 3 and not with Quest 2, a new feature that we've been waiting for quite a long time is really starting to roll out on the Quest 3 or any Quest with the Pro controllers. This feature is called multimodal. This allows you to not only use hand tracking, but also use controllers and use them simultaneously. For a long time now, if you wanted to switch from controllers to hand tracking or back and forth, it was kind of finicky. You had to set the controllers down, they had to deactivate, and sometimes it just didn't work. It would stay connected to the controllers. As you can see here, you can actively be using one controller, both controllers, and your hands are staying tracked the entire time. This not only opens up the hand tracking road further, but for developers who want to utilize it this way, the controllers could actually be used as a completely different tracking point. Imagine a fitness game where you use your hands to hit targets, and then if you have Pro controllers, or if the Quest 3 controllers can be attached to your feet in a way that they could still be tracked, you could have your hands and feet fully tracked without having to purchase any additional trackers. It's interesting that this didn't roll out for Quest 2 as well, although it's speculated because of the processing power this requires, it's not possible. Where if you use the Pro controllers, it is possible because they do their own processing internally, not necessarily adding more of a demand to the headset. I'm excited to see though how some developers utilize this and what comes from it. We'll keep you posted. At least all of the main features still seem to be rolling to all Quests, and another one is actually in the MetaQuest browser itself, going up to update 31.4. This is of course adding support for the simultaneous hands and controllers we talked about, but allowing you to now have browser tabs across more applications, allowing a more seamless process when you open links by directly opening the MetaQuest browser, giving you more of a normal computer type feel too, along this whole spatial computing line where you can now have your media continue to play whether you have a tab up in front of you or not, and you can choose to then mute that by clicking the volume icon on that playing tab. And some other little quality of life improvements like faster load times and trying to prevent on-screen cursor accidental hand interactions. A lot of little things that seem like they could have something to do with Apple Vision Pro and them trying to make this more of a device that looks like it can do all the same things. So although we're on software version 62 right now for Quest, it looks like of course for the near future we're going to continue to see those roll out for all the different Quests across the headsets. And speaking of the next software version, we're starting to see leaks of what could be coming in software update V63. And if you're someone who's really interested in these kinds of things ahead of time, Luna is a great source on Twitter to follow. All kinds of leaks, everything pops up through that Twitter feed. But basically by scrubbing through code, we've seen all kinds of things that Luna has brought up here. The ability to now use voice commands potentially in the place of pressing your controller buttons, being able to use actual headset gaze along with voice interaction to make it easier, more accessible for people to use the headset. And although of course the Quest 3 doesn't have eye tracking itself, it doesn't mean that Meta couldn't adopt something where you have like a dot cursor on the headset and you move your whole head to aim at something and then select it, whether it's through this voice interaction they're talking about, whether you start to use a hand tap. I personally think it would be a lot simpler in menus that I've navigated before. It's easier to quickly turn your head towards something and pull the trigger on your controller or even tap with your hand rather than trying to aim the controller itself at menus. So it's surprising it's not something we've seen before, but it is interesting to get a little preview of what's coming down the road, and especially where it seems like now with the Apple Vision Pro being out, whether it's super successful or not, it is starting to push a bit of competition, helping Meta rethink how things can actually work on the headset. If you're still on the fence about whether you want to upgrade from a Quest 2 to a Quest 3 and hold out, there's actually one YouTube channel, Tino Man VR, that won our last Quest 3 giveaway. They sent us over some unboxing footage, they already got it in, and they're now getting upgraded automatically. This is an option for another one of you out there. We did start another Quest 3 giveaway to celebrate hitting 70K, thanks to all of you. There's going to be links in the comments, the description down below to the current Quest 3 giveaway. I love when someone wins and they send us a clip, so I'm really thankful to Tino Man for sending us that over. It sounds like they might actually post a video on their YouTube channel of the unboxing as well, so if you want to check them out, I'll leave a link to their channel down below that Quest giveaway link too. As we've also been reviewing a lot of Quest 3 accessories, we had a bit of a weird moment where I bought multiple different facial interfaces for all of you to review for you, and although I bought them from 3 separate companies, they all came with AMB PCVR branding, AMVR logos, and we were like, what's going on? I reached out to AMVR at the time they were on vacation, but they have responded now by email. They said, basically, the other two brands you mentioned are actually part of the AMVR company. Since they haven't developed their own proprietary products yet, they're selling the same AMVR products under their respective names. This seemed kind of weird to me because they are putting out multiple of the same products at different price points under all these names, whether they're trying different SEO tricks on Amazon to see if one takes off better than the other. It's weird when you buy something that looks like it's from a brand name and it shows up with another brand name on it, in my opinion. But it does mean if you're a bargain hunter and you can figure out which ones are which, you might be able to save money on certain products by buying them under a different umbrella. Unfortunately, this doesn't give the most definitive answer as to their ambitions or motivations of behind why they're doing this. Maybe they're just trying to branch out and make multiple companies, but like they said, for now they don't have different products to sell. Seems like kind of an early decision in my opinion, but I told you all when we discovered this, once we got some sort of information back, we'd keep you posted on what we figured out. I'd love to know in the comments what you think about that though. It's kind of a weird issue, the weird way it came about, but I'm glad to at least have heard something back now. For all these first years of VR, the most common method of input so far has been controllers that are paired directly to the headset. We've seen other headsets try different methods, even with Meta adding hand tracking to their headsets, but as we're looking towards the future, Meta and Zuckerberg are talking more about how we actually may not be that far away from controlling AR glasses with brain signals, or controlling ours with wristbands that track your hands better than the headset possibly could, instead of having to hold controllers all the time. These are both very interesting concepts. I actually got to try a wristband recently when we were at CES that allowed you to control different things in your home. The idea behind a lot of these is not that you're going to add another wristband to it, but that it would be added to the smartwatch you're already wearing. This allowed me to click lights on and off around me, change their settings through tracking what was going on inside my wrist. And it really interests me because oftentimes watches already have vibration built in, so you could have some sort of haptic feedback if we get a smartwatch that does everything they do now, but also with hand tracking built into it. Whether you go that route or you really want to use your actual brain signals, we've seen some interfaces that actually do this already, albeit they aren't like the dystopian futures where we see people wearing these full head sensors that touch every part of your brain. But it's interesting to see the technology developing in a forward direction that allows us to maybe think about controllers as a thing of the past or something that's just not needed. Tracking would have to get a lot better, a lot more instantaneous, and we would have to solve problems around not having any sort of haptics when you just use your hands. But I'm curious to those of you out there, if you could choose one way or the other, what do you think would be better for VR? Would you rather have wristbands that are tracking your hands really well, they could have some vibration, or would you like to get to the point where you can control it all through your brain? I feel like that's obviously the Sword Art Online kind of future that a lot of people would love to see in VR, although it probably freaks a lot of people out thinking that's possible. We recently reported to you how more and more we're seeing games not only go Quest exclusive for an amount of time, coming only to Quest, and even pushing out Quest versions before PC or PSVR, which is a change from the past. Some games at least are following the pattern where they are ending Quest exclusivity eventually and then dropping over onto other platforms. One that launched this week is Genotype. This finally ended its Quest exclusivity and is now on PCVR as well, although it is called a PCVR port of the Quest version. Genotype is a VR action shooter based around a narrative. It's up here on the screen. You can see some of the trailer in case it's something you're interested in, but it's just a concept that I wanted to talk about because it is interesting how we've seen how the Quest is pushed so far forward in the VR industry that now a lot of developers are primarily focused on Quest, and what that's kind of done, although, to the quality that we used to see on PC of the games looking really good, being really powerful, and now that they start on Quest, it seems like the final versions that make it to PC aren't always the strongest version that would have been out there. I feel like with the Quest 3 and the leap it made, I'm spending more time playing my Quest 3 than ever playing on my PC. Even though some games don't look quite as good, games like Red Matter 2, the new Walking Dead update, show that the Quest standalone games can look really good, and it's just so much easier to throw my headset on and play than try to strap up to a PC, worry about things like battery life, a cord. It does make me miss the days of having a PC dedicated headset though that doesn't need things like a battery. Now it's possible that I might already have that next PCVR headset, as Sony is now officially working on PC support for the PlayStation VR 2. It's exciting because for years since it came out, we talked about it's only a USB-C cable. If Sony wanted to do it, it wouldn't be that hard to partner up with Steam and make this thing also work on PC. Now, unfortunately, in Sony's announcement, that's not exactly what they're saying yet. They're saying that they're currently testing the ability for PSVR 2 players to access additional games on PC to offer even more game variety. They hope to make the support available in 2024. The big question though, is this going to go directly and be plugged into your PC? Would Steam VR games somehow be ported over to PS5 and you'd play a version of Steam on your PS5, meaning you'd still have to have the PS5? PSVR 2 has had a bit of a rough year. Their sales are low. They have a low user base because everyone who wants one has to already own a PS5, which was an expensive purchase, buy the PSVR 2, which is also not a cheap purchase. So it begs the question, is this in response to that rough year that they've had? But if they would allow the PSVR 2 to be used directly on PCs, that would open anyone up to a gaming PC that is VR capable to buy a PSVR 2 whether they have a PS5 or not. That seems like the smartest decision on my part, although if they've been using this to try and sell more PS5s, they may want to keep people having to own a PS5 to get even this new feature. But I'd love to know if this really comes through, if it's for PC or if you still have to have PS5, would you consider getting a PSVR 2? Or if you have one right now, are you going to hold out on selling it if you're not using it much and see what comes of this? The PSVR 2 is a very capable headset, albeit uncomfortable for some people and some screen issues that do bother me when I try to use it. But if it was attached to a PC with high-end graphics, it could make for some great experiences, especially if Steam VR developers started incorporating the headset haptics, the triggers on the controllers. It's a potentially exciting future. But what's going on out there that has you excited about the world of VR right now? I'd love to know in the comments and discuss it with you down below. Thank you once again for being here with me, and I'll see you in another reality.